Hello there, you're on the JoyNews channel. You're watching The Pulse with me, Blessed Sogah. And coming up this afternoon, President Akufo-Addo is cautioning members of parliament to be sensitive to the rights of LGBT persons as parliament readies itself for the passage of that controversial anti-LGBTQ bill.
Private Members Bill. This is not an official legislation of the government, but it is one that has been mooted by a handful of private members. So we will see what the final outcome of it. But
Well, the internal race within the opposition National Democratic Congress is heating up, with former President John Mahama this afternoon turning himself up for vetting at the party's headquarters. He's been taking the opportunity to lash out at the governing New Patriotic Party and President Akufo-Addo for what he describes as excessive borrowing.
2016, we financed the government of Ghana budget without a single cedi from the Bank of Ghana. Today, this administration currently owes the Bank of Ghana 50 billion cedis.
And we'll get you more on that shortly. Meanwhile, there's some fiscal measures that are being taken by the central bank. This afternoon, we'll talk about the new monetary policy, which is increasing lending rates for commercial banks. We'll bring you the details.
EC decided to increase the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 29.5%.
We have these and more coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignity Lu Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I'm Blessed Sogah. We'll bring you details of our stories shortly. And this afternoon, President Akufo-Addo is revealing that substantial modifications have been done to the controversial Anti-Gay Bill, which has been proposed by some private members of Parliament. The President, during some bilateral talks with the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris today, featured and talked about matters relating to the protection of human rights of minority persons. Later on, there was a press briefing at the Jubilee House where the President indicated that through his Attorney General, he's made substantial modifications to the private members bill, and that the bill does not represent the official position of government on this. But let's get more from our presidential correspondent, Elton John Broadway, who's joining us now from Jubilee House just hours after that press briefing. Elton, so take us away. Let's start off with the bilateral talks that we witnessed together with the Vice President, some high-ranking officials of the U.S., and of course, on our side, we have the President, the Foreign Minister, and some other members of the Cabinet. What featured most during these high-level negotiations and talks?
Well, Blessed, I think you can just zoom it in on security, the economy, global economy, as it relates to Ghana, human rights issue, democracy on the continent, and what the United States is doing to help developing countries, including Ghana, especially as we go through the effects of COVID-19 and, of course, the Russia invasion of Ukraine. In fact, on the matter of the economy, the U.S. Vice President was quite clear that creditors, Ghana's creditors, should be more welcoming in terms of their approach towards Ghana's proposal to have some of their debt cancelled. Remember that the Paris Club, which the U.S. is a member, also together with China, and because China is holding most of our debt, government is negotiating with China to come to some sort of an agreement, whether China will agree to restructure the debt or agree to a total cancellation of the $1.7 billion US that Ghana owes China. For the other members of the Paris Club, there appears to be some kind of agreement between Ghana and them, but that agreement hinges on Ghana able to get a deal with China, and that's the reason why China becomes so crucial in our quest to get that $3 billion from China. And the U.S. Vice President said that Ghana's creditors must show some goodwill in terms of helping Ghana meet the conditions set upon by the IMF to enable it to access the $3 billion. And for her, the United States of America is in support of Ghana's proposal before the IMF, and she encouraged the other creditors to come clean or come strong on Ghana's proposal to ensure that Ghana will be able to go to the IMF board and then get that money to help Ghana resuscitate her economy. So this is about it on the economy. We're just waiting to hear what the finance minister's negotiation with the Chinese authorities came to, and then when government hopes to go to the IMF board. But even looking beyond the external creditors, there's also the need for government to be able to pass the 3 crucial revenue bills before Parliament. So we know that on Thursday, Parliament wants to dedicate a whole day to the consideration of that bills. But as far as our external debt restructuring is concerned, the US says that they are in support and they are encouraging those we owe money to also soften their stance so that we can have the IMF bailout to be able to revive the Ghanaian economy. On the issue of human rights, which clearly was a matter that the US itself wanted some clarity on, the Vice President says that the issues about gay, lesbians, bisexual, and the other LGBT category, she considers all these as human rights matters that must be respected regardless of how other countries view it. And she was quite clear in her response to the question about what she makes of government of Ghana's legislation before Parliament that is seeking to punish people who practice some of these things. And she says that these are human rights matters. The United States of America has a position on these matters. It's not a matter that she wants to deviate from. And for that reason, those rights must be respected. Same question was put to President Akufo-Addo. And President Akufo-Addo said that currently there's no legislation regarding the matter. What is before Parliament is a bill that could be passed, that could not be passed, regarding how Parliament approach on the matter would be in the coming days. Because as we know, the bill is currently before the Legal and Constitutional Committee of Parliament. Their job right now is to seek input, put together a report, present it to Parliament for the second reading, and then Parliament can now go into the consideration of the clauses or the provisions in the bill. And if successful through third reading, it will become a law. Even that may not bring finality to the matter, because President Akufo-Addo will have to now sign on to it for it to become a law. If the content of the bill after passage in Parliament is presented to President Akufo-Addo and he is not satisfied with the content of the bill, the law says that he has to write back to Parliament within a certain days and then communicate to Parliament his reservations about the bill. And then if the bill must go to another consideration, that should be done. He says there's no legislation before, there's no legislation in Ghana. What is before Parliament is a private member's motion that is going through the various stages. And indeed mentioned that with the intervention of the Attorney General, there's been some modification, which for him makes it quite friendly in terms of respecting the norms and cultures of this country and the rights of people who've chosen to practice a certain sexuality. So these were some of the issues that came up. And I'm sure that we can listen to President Akufo-Addo makes the point.
Well, let's listening to what the president and the other leaders had to say.
I'll start. I have raised this issue, and let me be clear about where we stand. First of all, for the American press who are here, you know that a great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community. And I feel very strongly about the importance of supporting the freedom and supporting and fighting for equality among all people, and that all people be treated equally. I will also say that this is an issue that we consider, and I consider, to be a human rights issue, and that will not change.
Oh, yes. What's the name?
Hano Youngs of the New York Times.
Zonan. Ms. Young, so thank you for the question. First of all, we don't have any such legislation here in Ghana. A bill has been proposed to the Parliament of Ghana, which has all kinds of ramifications, which is now being considered by the Parliament. It hasn't been passed, so the statement that there is legislation in Ghana to that effect is not accurate. The bill is going through the Parliament. It's going through the Parliament. The Attorney General has found it necessary to speak to the committee about it regarding the constitutionality or otherwise of several of its provisions, and the Parliament is dealing with it. At the end of the process, I will come in. But in the meantime, the Parliament is dealing with it. And I have no doubt that the Parliament of Ghana will show, as it has done in the past, first of all, its sensitivity to human rights issues, as well as to the feelings of our population, and will come out with a responsible response to the proposed. The legislation was a legislation that is being provided as a private member's bill. This is not an official legislation of the government, but it is one that has been mooted by a handful of private members. So we will see what the final outcome of it. But my understanding from the recent discussion I had with the committee, the substantial elements of the bill have already been modified as a result of the intervention of the Attorney General. We will see what the final outcome will be, and that is the stage at which I will also have the opportunity to prevent. As far as the presence of Wagner is concerned, we're concerned about it. We made
Well, President Akufo-Addo there. So, Elton, do we have an idea of these substantial changes or modifications that are taking place in respect of that anti-LGBTQ bill?
Well, we don't have the entire document. What we do know is that the Attorney General wrote his suggestion to the committee chairman. Before that, he had put forth government position on the bill. And so what we do know is that the next stage of the bill is for the committee chair to put together his report and then present the report before the plenary. And then if the report is accepted, then they move into the consideration of the bill, look at the various clauses and provisions in the bill. Then we can begin to understand exactly what the bill is seeking to do in terms of the punishment regime and other provisions that the bill would hope to communicate to the general public. So these are matters that I'm sure that is still being built on, and I'm sure in the days to come, when the speaker allows the chairman to move the bill to second reading, all these matters will come to light.
When the president was making this statement, there was the presence of some cabinet members as well, including the Foreign Affairs Minister herself. I'm sure that the Attorney General may have been there. Are we getting clarity to the comments of the president when he says that we at least need to be sensitive to the rights of individuals?
For now, there's no further comments on the matter. In fact, this matter, according to persons close to President Akufo-Addo, is one that they are waiting patiently for Parliament to make a determination on the bill, because clearly, as you know, this bill is not sponsored by government. This bill is a private member's motion, and private members' motion go through certain category of scrutiny before it is finally put before the House for consideration. So these matters are matters that the chairman of the committee, if given the opportunity to present his report, will make them known. And then I'm sure that from there on, if there are any other comments that should come, that will come. But during this news conference, beyond what the president said, there wasn't any more clarity on the matters that are before the government on the anti-LGBT bill. We can only wait for Parliament to make some movement on it, and then we'll know the new bill, as we've been told that there's been some modification by President Akufo-Addo.
Right. And Elton, just before I let you go, Nneema Adi is a lawyer. He's with us. We'll get to him shortly. But do we know what's happening later tonight? Because the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, as we understand, is on a 3-day working visit. So there's a lot to cover, isn't it? What's happening tonight?
Of course, so tonight will be the last time he will visit the Jubilee House before she will leave for Tanzania on Wednesday. So tonight is a state dinner being organized in her honor. And I think it's something that happens here most of the time when we have visiting high dignitaries. They come in, a dinner is organized in their honor. And today is no exception. So at 7 p.m., according to the program we have it, the U.S. Vice President will come back to the Jubilee House, and then will be a dinner to sort of climax activities of the day. But as I speak to you, she's currently engaging some young people in the creative industry to see how best the U.S. government can help. And on this trip, she's accompanied by, UK-based actor Idris Elba and another one for the United States of America. And they want to understand the concerns and the limitations of people in Ghana in the creative industry and how best the U.S. government can help, support or meet their challenges, because they've identified the creative industry at one surest way to reduce unemployment among the youth. And so if they are able to put some resources into helping them realize their potential in life, it will help them become economically independent and also help reduce unemployment, especially on the continent. So today, the information we have is that she's visiting a recording studio, a music recording studio, and they also engage people who are into the arena. She will also be meeting organizers of Afrochella, Afro Nation, and the other events that we have been witnessing in the last few years, and to also look at how best the U.S. can help, make it more popular, such that an avenue is created for the youth to exploit their potential and to, help them become financially independent.
I would have to leave it here for now. Elton Broadway, our presidential correspondent, joining us live from Jubilee House, where that press conference was held between, of course, President Akufo-Addo and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. I want to bring in now Nneema Adi, a constitutional lawyer. He understands the matters unfolding now and the implications for the bill before Parliament. And we had the president there during the press briefing, indicating, first of all, that there are a handful of MPs taking this through a private member's motion, and that when it gets to the presidential accent level, that's when he will come in. What's the likely imposition of that?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to our cherished viewers. I mean, the locus classicus for the discussion of this subject of LGBT plus anywhere in the world is usually referred to what we call the Wolfenden Committee report of 1957, which is a 155-page document, if anybody is minded to read it. The highlight of the report seeks to find out about these LGBTQ issues, which happened way back in England, okay? And a committee was put together, a 15-member committee was put together to look into the report. And the bottom line is what concerns anybody if two consented adults do in their privacy. Okay, so that is what it is. And if you look at our law here, you realize that even not about the male and the male or a female and a female, but even a male and a female, if they do what we describe as publicly unseen, that also our laws frowns on it, okay? So that everything that is got to do with sex is supposed to be done in the secret. So that I don't see what the main issues are now. And the hue and cry, if it's got to do with we allowing people to now openly have sexual engagements
but I mean, you just take a look at the form and context of this newly proposed bill. There are, of course, the element around the criminalization of advocacy for same-sex marriages and its tendencies, for instance. That's being considered by some human rights activists as not healthy for a democratic country such as Ghana. What's your take on that?
Okay, good. So, human rights, once we've all assigned to the International Human Rights Conventions, you want to go by it. But the thing is, not until it becomes law, everything we will say, just like the president said, is going to be a speculation. And you and I would not want to speculate something that is not clearly put out there. So you would say that, let's see what they've done. We've seen what has happened in Uganda. If you want to make any comparison to what they've done, 20 years punishment, etc., etc. We want to see that bill laid and how Parliament discusses it and what comes out of it. Until then, we'll go into speculations. But what the guideline or the key point will be that, yes, the human rights must be respected. And not human rights only as in LGBTQ issues, but human rights general. Anything that seeks to harm the human must always be protected. So that the detail of what they seek to do, whether they want to say that, yes, it's going public, and therefore people should not be harmed because it is their human rights issue, I think that we'll see it when they get there. But until then, I don't think that we want to speculate too much. But also, again, you want to look at our culture, you want to look at our religious, and then you want to look at our makeup as a people, and see what our society buys into and what our society do not buy into. Because I've made two references. The Ugandan issue, which they pass the law based on their sovereignty and think that that is what works for their society. And then recently we've also read the Vatican issue by the Pope, which also says something to the Christian perspective. Let's see what our Parliament discusses and then what issues we come out with in Ghana here. Yes, and I think that our society will do the rightful thing. Yes.
Right, and what's right for you? Because the president is pointing out to us today that there's been some substantial modifications, but you've seen bits and pieces of this proposed bill. What's the likely impact on the rights of minority groups in Ghana?
Definitely, if like I said, I want to go off from speculation, but if I want to speculate what the bigger majority will say, then obviously we all know what it is. Looking at cultural sensitivities and how our societies make up and all that, okay? But when the president talks of substantial has been reviewed, I'm not privy to that review. So obviously, I'm sure just like the president said he will come here again, I'm sure I also come to you again when we have what the reviews are in front of us, then we can discuss per the document in front of us. Yes.
Indeed, and you've had the benefit of practicing elsewhere, I guess. The context about culture comes through. Across the African continent, what are the variations in the law? What are the variations in the law in terms of these whole posture against LGBTQ?
Good. So then that puts me on the extreme of the other side, because I have had some substantial practice in East Africa, and where we find Uganda in East Africa and all those things. Obviously, you know how the society there sees it. They abhor it, to put it rightly. So from that perspective, I would say that that's not gel with them. Okay, but you look at our Ghanaian society, which seems to be a little more liberal. That's what I'm saying, that we want to see what our society will say, because we seem to surprise ourselves. And we're talking about Parliament. We've seen what Parliament has done recently with their voting. So we surprise ourselves. And I don't want to say that this will be another situation where we'll surprise ourselves again, or where we'll listen to what our cultural sentiments will say, and even how broadly we're going to engage our various, if you like, segments of society. So you want to see what the religious aspect says in terms of Christian, Muslim, traditional beliefs. and what the various groups says. Okay, if we're going to expand it to that.
Niamadi? It appears we're having some challenges reconnecting with Niama Adi. Well, we lost you there briefly, but that's where I want to bring up the point about what the Speaker of Parliament has said. The Speaker of Parliament has told us that he will pass this bill by the end of 2024, and of course he's having that full backing of the private members going ahead with the bill. Yet the President is saying, let's be sensitive to the rights of individuals. If that's the case right now, there's the concern as to what the Constitution says about the presidential assent to a parliamentary bill. If the bill does not look like it's fit for purpose from the perspective of the President, what powers does he have within the context of the Constitution to either block it or review it? Nia, I hope you can hear me on this point. It appears we've lost Niama and lawyer Nelson Roxon Dapiamakwo is Member of Parliament for South Dine. Okay, it appears we don't have him also with us. You're still watching the polls, and let's do some politicking now because former President John Mahama has also shown up at the party office, the headquarters of the NDC today, for his vetting. He's seeking to lead the NDC into the 2024 elections as its presidential candidate. We have more for you.
We're going to have two main agendas for a new NDC government. Of course, the first one will be taking steps to revitalize our economy and put it back on its feet. And of course, having served under Professor Tamil's and one term under my own leadership, we all saw how we managed to repair our economy, and for the first time in the history of Ghana, in 2016, we financed the government of Ghana budget without a single CD from the Bank of Ghana. Today, this administration currently owes the Bank of Ghana 50 billion cedis. We're going to bring discipline back into our finances. That is the first order of work we have. The second order of work is to repair our governance systems, to guarantee that the media can work freely without harassment from any quarters, to guarantee that corruption will be fought without the president clearing anybody, to guarantee that the anti-corruption institutions will have a free mandate to carry out their duty against anybody, whoever you are, to make sure that CSOs have space to be able to express themselves without fear or favor, to ensure that we review our constitution to make it a more dynamic document to take us into the future. These are some of the issues that will be on our agenda for a new NDC government.
Well, John Mahama has also indicated that he dazzled before the 12-member vetting committee, which, of course, had that process lasting for about an hour.
Ask questions about the party, how to strengthen the party, the electoral process. I was asked about Parliament, how to strengthen our group in Parliament. And most of all, I was asked questions about the country and my views for repairing and also improving governance in Ghana. It was a very serious interview. And I do think that because of the experience I have, the committee, myself, been impressed at the delivery that I gave. But the work starts now, and I don't underestimate the enormous responsibility I'm taking upon myself. It's my hope that my colleagues with whom I am standing for the presidential primaries. We would come together as one after I have emerged as the presidential candidate. That we will rally together in order to ensure that NDC wins the victory in the 2024 elections.
Well, some MPs who endorsed John Mahama also showed up at the party's headquarters.
Who will support him and make sure that he gets the nod to lead the party come 2024.
We all see where the economy is heading towards. This is not the time to, try other people and see if they will be able to do a good job. But this is the time that you need an experienced hand, a feet that has walked the path that we are hoping to improve on. So JM is our best bet. He's our best foot going forward.
He's going through a normal process. This is not the first time he's gone through this, but we all know that this contest is a foregone conclusion. We are looking at the percentage and not the victory. So at the end of the day, we expect that he shouldn't get anything less than 99%. Because I don't see the others as serious contenders. Okay? But the good thing is that at least it has made him to go around the constituencies and then to rejuvenate the enthusiasm and the interest of the people.
It would be a joke to joke with the NDC primaries. It would be a joke. I'm a woman. Recently, we were short of vaccines. I'm a woman. Today, we go to the market and we cannot sell. Our children are dying. Our husbands are dying. Our families, our mothers and fathers, they are dying. The health system has collapsed. And so, why should I play around, beat about the bush, jump around as if I'm a frog that has been dropping hot waters? I know John Mahama is the one who can rescue us. John Mahama has traveled before. He traveled the road. He knows where the potholes are, like drivers. When they go on this bad road under Nanado and Baumia, they know exactly where Nanado's potholes are. They know where to slow down, where to avoid. So why should you take an inexperienced driver?
We've tagged it as vetting. But what is the meaning of vetting? John Mahama doesn't need anybody to be vetted in the party. John Mahama doesn't need anybody to be vetted in the Republic of Ghana. Well known, somebody who has been an assemblyman to the vice president, to the highest position of the Republic of Ghana. He's coming in here today just to let us aware that he's contesting for the flag bearership for the 2020. He has done it before, and we think he stands tall among all the aspirants. That's why you see us here.
Well, some of these MPs have also been sharing their reaction to what they term as betrayal when the party issued a statement indicating that all MPs should reject President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees.
We are all disappointed. We are all broken. But I always want to say that when you look at, we have 136 members of parliament. Majority voted in the interest of Ghanaians and in the interest of the party. So we cannot use only the few partners to judge the entire country. But the truth is, that issue has become an albatross on our neck because it has broken the confidence of many party faithfuls.
No, I'm not in support of it. Never. I'm not in support of it. Never at all. I'm not in support of it. Besides, the party is going to do it. The party is going to find whoever did that. The party is going to look for them.
We thought that parliamentarians are going to do right by the people. They are going to scrutinize every policy that is brought before it before they take any decision in the supreme interest of the people. So for me to have, experienced a situation where NDC members of parliament, would endorse the appointment of, President Akufo-Addo when we are all calling that the president exercises austerity measures by cutting down his government, I am so disappointed. But the official communication from the party indicates that those MPs, at least 31 of them, are on their own. The supreme interest or the supreme position of the party envelopes or reflects the demands and the wants and the needs of the people, which is that government at this time should cut down wasteful expenditure, that government at this time should cut down the huge size of government, and the position of the NDC has not, deferred.
Also, some members of the NDC there, but the MPs themselves had this to say.
Friday night, I couldn't sleep. It was so bad that the next day, now I slept from 4 o'clock till the next day 4 o'clock. I did not take supper. This is the first time I feel so deflated, and I feel that it's not that easy to be a parliamentarian. As members of parliament, we should have a collective interest and a collective responsibility. In fact, we have failed ourselves, we have failed the party, and we have failed a majority of Ghanaians. And I wouldn't like to defend anything. The public can lambast us, and we've got to take it like that. I'm very, very sorry. I'm very, very sorry.
It was a sad day for all of us, and I can tell you that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because immediately after the elections, on my way home, I got a call, and after speaking with that person, a high-ranking person, but my night was like something else. I couldn't sleep. So sad that we could do this to ourselves. But wait a minute. Without any evidence, all of us are the ones who have gone wrong. And that is why some have decided to pull out evidence to show that they went the way the party wanted them to go. And that for me is an eye-opener. What it means is that going forward, each one of us should be expected to do that. Because you cannot rely on others. And at the end of the day, they disappoint you and put all of you in one
This is the second time this is happening. Kocho Ponkroma, Hawakumsi and Co. And now, this new set. Do you think that Ghanaians can trust you and now your party can also trust you to do its bidding in Parliament? Especially now that the EC is pushing through this year.
That we have an opportunity to redeem ourselves. And that's what I'm looking up to. I know we still have some bills, we still have some taxes to pass. And I can tell you, some of us will not sit and allow this to happen again. If it means each one of us voting and showing pictures, so be it. Because Ghanaians have so much trust in us, but what is happening means that they are getting disappointed, and we do not redeem ourselves. We will not have a party to even go into the elections in 2024.
Well, on now to the economy. If you're hoping to get some capital from the banks, well, be prepared, because the central bank has just announced some new fiscal measures. Of course, we now know that commercial lending rates are being revised upwards to, Kofi Ajay, help us with that.
At 29.5%.
Isaac Kofi Ajay is a data analyst, of course, here at JoyNews. Let's listen to the central bank governor, Dr. Ernest Anderson, announce that, and we'll get into the figures.
Under the staff-level agreement with the IMF, the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance have finalized a memorandum of understanding on zero financing to the budget, which will be signed shortly. The passage of the relevant revenue bills by Parliament will therefore conclude the required prior actions to advance Ghana's program to the IMF Executive Board. This will be critical in resetting the economy on the path of recovery, including putting it firmly on a disinflation path and sustained growth. Headline inflation has declined marginally for 2 consecutive months, but continues to remain relatively high compared to the medium-term target of 8 plus or minus 2%. To place the economy firmly on the path of stability and reinforce the pace of disinflation, it is important that the monetary policy stance be tuned further to re-anchor inflation expectations towards the medium-term target. Given these considerations, the MPC decided to increase the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 29.5%. Additional measures. The committee also decided to reset the cash reserve ratio on domestic currency deposits for banks from 12% to 14% effective 13th April 2023. In addition, the bank will step up liquidity management operations to address excess liquidity conditions in the market. The committee will continue to monitor developments in the banking sector and deploy other macro-prudential tools to ensure financial stability.
Isaac Ofieje is still here with us. Isaac, what's the implication? 29.5% for an average person out there. What would this mean?
So usually the policy rate is the rate at which Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks. So commercial banks take loans from Bank of Ghana, then we ordinary people, businesses, private persons who go and also take loans from banks. So from a 28% rate that Bank of Ghana was lending to commercial banks, they are now increasing it by 150 basis points from 28% now to 29.5%. That's what we do know currently. So this simply means that commercial banks will see their cost of borrowing from the central bank increasing, thereby also going to increase the rate at which they lend commercially to private persons or individuals in the economy. So this simply means that now that we've seen the policy rate go up almost 30%, it simply means that we're going to find lending rates, commercial lending rate across commercial banks somewhere around either 38 or 40%, because when it was even around at 27.5%, some banks were charging as high as 35%. So imagine now with a rate of almost 30%, banks will now also increase their lending rate, or the rate at which they borrow, or the interest rate on their borrowing. Yeah.
Can we paint the picture of the nominal terms and what this may mean? Say I go in for a loan of 100,000. What's the implication?
So a loan of 100,000 simply means that you're going to pay more. This is simply because the central bank feel that although inflation is coming down, there's still more liquidity in the system. So they have to find ways and means to make sure they mop up the excess liquidity from the system. The monetary policy rate, the hikes is not going to be the only means. You heard the governor saying that banks will now increase their reserves with the commercial bank from 12% now to 14%. Means banks will be, now have less liquidity to actually loan out to people. But just like you said, if I'm going to lend any money right now, because the policy rate is up, banks will also now adjust their interest rate, the interest rate that they charge on the money, the principal that you are going for. So if you used to pay 400 cedis on a certain loan, mind you that if you pick that same loan currently, you're going to pay close to, let's say, 600 cedis or let's say 500 cedis, because they also need to make sure that they put measures in place to make sure that the extra costs they are getting from, getting loans from the central bank, they're also able to pass it on to normal people.
And we understand that with this latest directive, there's also an implication for the banks themselves.
Exactly. So if you look at the domestic debt exchange itself, the governor said that they've done some bit of analysis, and they've realized that although the banks they still have the kind of liquidity capacity to still do business, they are still monitoring the banks and analyzing, because they feel that the DDEP has actually weakened the liquidity strength of a lot of banks, that they are still monitoring, and they said that they will come in as and when it is necessary to make sure that banks do not collapse, or we do not have what happened in 2017, where we had to do a whole cleanup, where we spent close to 25 billion Ghana cedis to do a banking sector cleanup.
Let's talk about other measures that we're taking today. How's that likely to impact the economy?
Well, so the whole thing is geared towards the 3 billion bailout package that we're going to get from the IMF. So one thing that stood out for me is the fact that the central bank has now signed an MOU with the finance ministry for a 0% financing of all budgets. So mind you, 2023, for instance, our budget deficit is around 60 billion. Bank of Ghana has signed an MOU with Finance Ministry. So what they are telling us is that they're not going to get a penny, free money from the central bank. So everything that we're going to spend in the economy, we have to make sure we generate it. So you heard the governor over there telling parliamentarians of parliament that they should expedite the passage of the 3 bills that we have in parliament. We know we're going to get close to 4 billion Ghana cedis from those 3 bills. That's new levies, or what you call it, taxes. And if they come through, government is going to get an additional 4 billion cedis to make sure that they cut down this over 60 billion deficit that we're talking about. So 0% financing, it means that finance ministry is not going to get any money from the central bank. This is an MOU that was signed because of the 3 billion IMF package. So we were forced to actually sign it. Let me put it that way. It's a condition that we have to meet. We have to make sure that finance ministry does not come in, the Bank of Ghana does not come in to always come and then print money to, finance budget. Because one key element of the 3 billion bailout package we're getting from them, it's not just the money. It's supposed to give us, markets credibility for us to also go to the international fund markets and borrow. And then also help us to strengthen our local currency and reduce inflation from the over 50% to somewhere close to 25%. So if you're going to do that, then you really need to look at monetary and fiscal measures to make sure that you don't have a lot of money, flowing around in the system.
Okay, let's bring in Courage Muti now, an economist, to help us with the discussion. And Courage, what do you see happening to the capital markets?
If you can repeat your question, please.
Yeah, what do you see happening to the markets given this latest monetary policy?
Well, yeah, good afternoon to you and your listeners. Yeah, we've seen over the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks or so that the government has been on the agenda of compressing T-bill yields. They've done so from about 35% to just about 18.3 thereabout percent before the last auction. But because the size on offer last week was much higher than the maturity obligation, I think the market priced it higher this time around, and we saw that trend reverse slightly at this last auction. With this increment in the policy rate and the fact that we've actually reversed the 2% reduction on the cash reserve ratio from 12% now back to the 14% it was, it would further tighten liquidity levels on the domestic market, which means that government agenda to suppress or depress yields on T-bills probably might not see a lot of reduction in the coming auctions, really, because it was the liquidity levels and lack of options on the market that really were pushing banks into such activity where oversubscriptions were leading to reduction in yields. So now that that is reversed, liquidity levels could tighten a bit going forward, which might mean low demand for T-bills, and by extension, yields might not fall that much. I think the other main takeaway from today's meeting, if you like, is that, look, I understand the decision. The banking system is awash with liquidity, and is the reason they have to tighten up and mop those up so that we sustain the this deflation trend that we have seen started over the last 2 months, and then anchor it to a level where we could sustain the decline all the way to the 29% or so levels the central bank is looking at by end of the year. But the bigger issue becomes, you've seen the composite index of economic activity for the 6th month running. It has declined, this time to about 7.5% or so negative growth for the period of February. And you ask yourself, that in itself means that growth is slowing, and you've seen Q3 growth numbers slow down. The governor admitted that we'll have growth for full year 2022 slow down from the even revised 3.5% growth rate that was initially envisaged, really. Now, the question becomes, the government must raise revenue to ensure fiscal consolidation. And then we have imposed VAT, we've imposed growth and sustainability levy, which would be on the profits of companies, really. And that has been expanded to include all companies. And then we are having the phenomenon of slowing growth that might mean lower disposable income, lower profits from corporations. And then the question becomes, how do we intend to raise the revenues that we plan to raise? And how does that put the whole fiscal consolidation agenda into perspective, really? I think those are the questions we need to ask. So it is right to sustain the inflation outlook. It will come with short-term, if you like, trade-offs, but it has consequences for growth that need to be looked at holistically. And that is why I feel even at this moment, Parliament should do their best to get those revenue measures going. And we need IMF in town as soon as possible to actually ensure fiscal consolidation gets started. The numbers on the fiscal side did not make good reading, given the revised targets that we've had at mid-year and all of that. You've seen the expenditure exceeded a target significantly, even if revenue came very close to the target for the period, really. And so the fiscal discipline is still a question, and we need that supervision from the IMF to ensure that we keep things on target and gain back market credibility. I think those are the most important issues now. And whatever it takes from Parliament, from the Ministry of Finance team negotiating, and every other actor in the chain, whatever it takes for us to secure that deal as soon as possible, we need to be doing.
And Isaac, I guess, of course, Courage is raising an important aspect about T-bills and the corresponding effect. Is that far-fetched?
Not at all, because if you actually look at one of the ways government was using to get revenue at the first quarter of the year was T-bills. Mind you, bonds market were completely shut. They weren't getting any money from the bonds market. They were actually now resorting to the T-bill market to make sure that the revenues that were not coming in, usually your first quarter of the year, you don't really get the revenues coming in. So you need to borrow from the market to, supplement your revenue before maybe when the revenues start coming in, you start paying off. But governments use the T-bills to attract people to, it was a way of mopping up money from the system. So if it is 30%, it means if you have the money, you would rather buy T-bills than maybe use to do any other thing or keep that money. So it was a way of mopping up money from the system. And T-bills rates going up as high as 30% meant a lot of people got attracted. They went to buy the bills, and government was really able to mop up. That's why partly one of the reasons why we saw inflation coming down from as high as 54 to now a little over 50% that we're seeing. So reducing the T-bill rates from 30 now to 18%, it means that people are they don't have that kind of motivation to borrow, because they feel that if you've reduced from 30 to 18, it's like you've truncated what I'm going to get by more than half. Exactly. So people will be, they wouldn't want to now lend to government like they would have when the rate was around 30%.
Interesting days ahead. And Courage, let's draw the connection to the performance of the CD as well. What do you have to say about that?
Well, yes, the CD hasn't reflected the fundamentals for the year so far. In fact, given where we ended last year, and at some point last year, we were around 15, 16 CD to $1, and the fact that, yes, it's been volatile, moving between a band of about 11 CD 70 pesos to about 13 CD 20 pesos so far this year. But if you look at it in terms of the year-to-date depreciation, about 22 or so percent depreciation compared to what it was sometime last year and the pressures we ended the year with, I think the depreciation pressures have been fairly contained. And I dare say that the Bank of Ghana's gold purchase program to shore up the reserves seem to have played a role in that regard. Yes, the gross reserves level would have fallen from the level they ended the year with, but we see between January and February that it grew, and net reserves actually increased from the level we ended the year with. And you are not seeing the kind of depreciation we saw in the last month, or if you like, the last 2 months of the year within this period of first quarter 2023, especially given we expect the seasonality effect to drive it really. So I guess there are some works going on behind the scene. And I tend to side with the governor to a very large extent that exchange rates or the reserve vulnerability, even if it's a concern, is not so much an issue at this point in time, because they have tried to manage it even with the low reserves we've seen. For instance, if we started last year with about 9 billion in reserves and now it's just about 5 billion, you expect much more depreciation, but that is not the case. And so whatever good stuff they have been doing, we hope it continues. But the anchor for the cedi going forward will be when the balance of payment support flow in from the extended credit facility, from the our development partners who would have, government is looking to raise the remainder of the financing for 2023 from, if those monies start flowing in, and if we get a deal, that means sentiment on the market kind of stabilize a bit, and we are beginning to see, if you like, a reduction in the outflows and maybe some stability on that front, then volatility of the cedi will be contained a bit going forward. So it is not all bad at this point. 22% is still very significant depreciation, but relative to what we saw towards the end of last year, it is a manageable situation. And the start of the program will bring a bit more relief than we are seeing now.
Okay, then. Thanks, Darich. We'll see you here on the show again.
My pleasure.
Kofi, and just talking about the external debt exchange, we know that the finance minister has returned from China, and that would also be crucial to what we're seeing play out here.
Exactly. So you need to make sure you find good levels with all your creditors before you send a proposal to the board level for approval. Mind you, aside from the debt talks or the debt restructured operation that we seek to do with most of our external creditors, we also need to make sure that we get the revenue, the bills passed, so that we have inflows plus a certain kind of assurance from our creditors that one reason why we are doing this is because, if you look at our budget, we are supposed to do a debt servicing of more than 50 billion Ghana cedis. Right. At this point, we can't pay 50 billion Ghana cedis. That's more or less like a 5 billion US dollars. And how much is even the IMF giving us? It's 3 billion. So if our debt servicing for 2023 alone is about $5 billion, then it means that we have to make sure, we have to do all we can to make sure that we find the fiscal space for the economy to breathe.
Isaac Ofieje with Data Analysis Desk. Thank you for joining us. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be back with some more stories. And welcome back to The Pulse. Let's take you to our top story on the state visit by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. She's not the only one on this tour. She's been accompanied by her spouse, Douglas Emhoff. Well, the spouse of the U.S. Vice President has also been pushing another agenda here in the country, and it's about affirmative action and women empowerment. We caught up with his team, and here's what we found out.
The sequel of the series, Things We Do for Love, You Only Live Once, popularly known as YOLO, embarked on a town hall event to create awareness on youth-related issues such as adolescent reproductive health, teenage pregnancy, COVID-19, and many more. The guest of honor, Doug Emhoff, husband of Kamala Harris, expressed his profound gratitude to the YOLO production team for such an educational series and stated that he was thrilled to know that the show addresses issues affecting women and that his main priority during his visit is to help address such issues.
So thank you to the educators, the stars, the producers for shining a light on these issues, that are so important to young people who sometimes don't feel heard, and sometimes you don't feel like anyone is looking at you and can see you, but we do see you. And second, gentlemen, I've spoken out a lot about the importance of women in leadership roles and advancing women's rights. While I'm in Ghana and throughout my travels in Africa, I'm going to be focused on reaffirming the United States' commitment to advancing rights for women and young girls all around the world.
Popular Ghanaian actor Majid Michel stated that the historic visit by Mr. Emhoff goes a long way to impact the youth to make good choices.
These people have been in leadership for over 200-300 years compared to us. How old is Ghana? Ghana is in the 60s. Compared to them, we are still adolescents. Anyone representing America that comes to this soil, America is on this soil, which is a great impact leadership. These children listening to this man speak means a lot to us because we know the impact that his words will make on these students, and that is the focus. The focus is not America. The focus is the people of Ghana and the youth in particular. We are here to not motivate, we are here to instruct them to make the right choices, to do the right things, to take fear out of them, for them to take what is theirs.
Actress Jackie Appiah also revealed that the impact of Dag Emhoff's visit has a great impact on the movie industry in Ghana.
And I'm so happy that I'm part of history, because this is the first time such a dignitary is taking part in anything that has to do with movie making or filmmaking in Ghana.
Mr. Emhoff is currently on a 3-day visit to Ghana with Vice President Kamala Harris. Jacqueline Ansuma-Yebua's report for Joy News.
And this afternoon, Joy News is learning that the Ghana Recycling Project has been launched to deal with the waste that has engulfed parts of Accra. Through the use of technology, plastics, which has been a hurdle for the country, will be dealt with. There's more in this report.
Waste has become an albatross on the neck of the country. Joy News' recent documentary titled A Sea of Plastics highlighted the impact of plastic waste on the livelihoods of coastal communities and the environment. Speaking at the launch of the Ghana Recycling Project in Accra, a senior associate of Implementers, an organization that advocates the recycling of plastic waste, Kofi Opoku explains the project and the maiden training will help sanitize the environment and provide job opportunities.
The Ghana Recycling Project is going to actually be in 3 phases. So the first phase is obviously the training that we are having with the collectors, and with that one, we are discussing the impact. It's more of a stakeholder engagement, although it's a training, discussing the impact it's having on the environment and what they are doing, the type of plastics that they can recycle and the type of plastic that they cannot recycle. So now when we get to understand the type of plastics that they can recycle, we will help give them the technologies that will help make the process very simple for them. And with the ones that they cannot recycle, we will work with them to ensure that we provide them with the country, Miniplast, the state-of-the-art technology that can actually be able to recycle all the other ones. That's, I mean, all the 7 plastics that we have, types of plastic that we have. So we want to make it possible that Ghana will be able to recycle all the 7 types of plastics that we have. We have exposed them to the technology that when we got through the Trinamics, which we got through the Trinamics partnership, and for that they can be able to point that particular technology to these to the plastics, and it gives you the exact plastic type to help with the sorting processes, because the sorting processes is one of the biggest challenges which everybody acknowledges. It's a global challenge.
Implementers is partnering plastic manufacturing giants in the country to roll out the project. One of the companies is Miniplast. Nicole Gibson is head of sustainability at Miniplast.
Miniplast Limited is one of Ghana's leading plastic manufacturing and recycling companies. We've partnered with Implementers and Trinamix to bring some new sorting technology into our processes. We're trying to clean up more plastic, but also segregate them into their proper categories. That way we recycle them into an effective and durable product. We recycle over 1,000 tons of various plastic waste every month, and we are expanding our locations. We also operate in Tamale, Kumasi, and here in Spintex, but hopefully we get more plastic waste from everyone. This project with Implementers and Trinamix, it's going to do that. It's going to start showing these collectors how to properly sort your waste, how to get a higher value for them, and then bring them here for me.
Some persons were taken through some training to learn about the new technology that would be used to help sort out the plastics that are generated in the country. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Accra.
And in its quest to promote awareness about the dangers on the internet, the Economic and Organized Crime Office is warning the public about the dangers on the increased use of the internet. There's more in this report.
The public lecture was on the theme Building a Sustainable Cybercrime-Free Society for Economic Development. COP Tiwa Adodankwa observed a rise in online impersonation of high-profile personalities with new attack vectors emerging. She emphasized cybercrimes are becoming sophisticated as thousands of individuals and businesses are victimized.
Cyber criminals have been quick to take advantage of the digital transformation of the economy to exploit and profit from emerging markets. Over the past few years, the cyber criminal markets have expanded and diversified. They have become adept at working together and across markets and linking up globally. This made detecting their tactics, techniques, and procedures sophisticated. Alongside the rise in cybercrime, attempts to disrupt critical technology-enabled resources and services have become more common.
According to the 2019 Global Risk Report of the World Economic Forum, cyber attacks are currently among the top risk globally, and they result in multi-million-dollar losses. The market value estimate of cybersecurity is expected to increase from $120 billion to $300 billion by 2024. COP Adodankwa says the government is doing its part to reduce the impact.
Building a society in which cybercrime is minimized is critical for economic development. Cybercrime can cause significant damage to individuals, businesses, and economies. By raising awareness, developing effective laws and regulations, promoting cybersecurity training, investing in technology, and establishing partnership, we can work together to prevent cybercrime and create a safer and more secure digital environment.
Meanwhile, the director at the Institute of Research, Innovation and Development at Kumasi Technical University, Dr. Smart Sapon, emphasized the need for victims of cyber fraud to report incidents to the police.
So we as an institution or institutions across the country are encouraged today to boldly come out and report incidences of cybercrime, so the law enforcement agencies would know the changing trends our criminals are using and meet them squarely. If we fail to report, because currently the reporting is very, very low, we will not know the various trends by which these guys operate. And
residents of the Sisala East municipality fear they will be cut off from the entire Upper West region if steps are not taken to fix their roads. We've been to the area and filed this report.
Make no mistake, these are not illegal migrants crossing the English Channel, but rather an amateur viral video of teachers and other stranded commuters during the rainy season being helped to cross the flooded Wick and abandoned old bridges between Konchoko and Banu in the Sisala East municipality by an articulated trailer. It is a yearly ritual, and commuters, especially teachers and farmers, suffer the consequences.
In the rainy season, I can remember one day I was traveling from my community to the next community, to that community, Bano, where I teach. I came here all of a sudden to see that the whole bridge was covered with water. That day, actually, the rain fell in the morning, and we knew that at around afternoon the waters would have gone. Only for us to come in, the whole place was covered. We stood hoping that the water will pass so that we will go, we will move. All of a sudden we realized that where even we were standing was getting covered with water. We didn't know where the water was coming from. The whole place was covered, and we had to go back to Konchoko, that is the community before you come here. And we stayed there for a lot of hours. We even slept there. We left this place like around 10 o'clock p.m.
We are also farmers. We want to go to Tuma and buy fertilizer. You will not go to take your number of days. If it even rain once, maybe 2-3 days it will go by. When it rain like today, tomorrow, then it will take you 1 week. You can go to Tuma to buy your fertilizer.
Schools' contact hours are being lost, as well as vaccine for polio and COVID-19 diseases got spoiled as a result.
As a disease control officer, there was a time we were doing this polio exercise. It was during that time when we got to the bridge, it was full. Before we entered the water nearly picked our car. So sometimes during the rain season, it's always a problem for us. There's a lot of things that we can do. So there is some exercise like this polio and the national COVID-19 vaccination exercise during last year. We found a lot of challenges because of this breach. We couldn't reach other communities. And you know, for the polio and that one, the drugs, they doesn't like heat. So during that time, a lot of drugs spoil and other communities, they couldn't get vaccinated.
With heavy rains less than 2 months away, they have fears they will be cut off from the rest of the Sisala East municipality and the region at large, thereby halting schools' curriculum and economic activities. They are appealing to the government to come to their aid.
For vehicles and travelers, how they will do and cross this road is very serious. So we are pleading on the government to actually do something about the bridge. If not, we are actually suffering.
Construction of the 32 kilometers Navrongo-Chuchuluga-Tumu Road has been awarded to reputable road construction firm, Mawuns Limited. They have since started work on the project and is already 39% complete. Engineer in Tier 4 Atubrewu is the resident engineer for the project.
This is the Navrongo-Chuchuluga-Tumu, 32 kilometers. Addendum number 1 to construction of Navrongo-Chuchuluga-Tumu, 25 kilometers. We are currently at 39% completed. We have 2 bridges on our road. We are currently at kilometer 24 plus 800. That's in Navrivier.
Work on the project, according to engineer in Tier 4 Atubrewu, could have been completed within 24 months, but is doubtful over the completion date as a result of the contractor not being on site for more than 3 months. Quiz about the reason why the contractor abandoned the site, engineer in Tier 4 remained tight-lipped and sometimes evasive.
No, he has not officially written. Okay. Yes.
But you know his payment? Yeah.
No, he has not written.
You know why the contractor is not on site?
He hasn't written officially to inform us.
To you.
No.
You haven't spoken to him why he's not on site?
No. He hasn't yet said why it's not.
What are you doing?
So the resident, you are the resident engineer. The project has
stalled. The man has not been on site for more than 3 months now, and you haven't asked why he's not on site.
Since what do you call it? This a briefing. I think that's what we'll be able to give out.
For more than 3 months now, there is no sign of the contractor at work, which is a great worry for the chiefs and people of the Kuntoro community.
We are begging the government, plead the government to try and come our aid because of the bridges. And actually, if the bridges could do, we'll be happy. We'll be happy because other than that, getting to rain season, we can't travel.
Deputy Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Amiri Chine Isaku, who also doubles as a member of parliament for the Sisala East constituency, told the project side and was full of praise for the work done so far by the contractor, but unhappy about the snail's pace of work. He urged community members to exercise restraint whilst he worked on the bottlenecks on the project to enable the contractor to return to site.
The contractor has not been on site for some time now. So as the member of parliament for this area, I'm taking this opportunity to appeal to the residents to exercise some restraint whilst I follow up with the Minister for Road, the Minister for Finance, to see how we can quickly get together and get the contractor back to site. Because when I spoke to the contractor, the main issue is with payment, and I know the road minister is very committed to helping the contractor come back to site. But I have to get there and reach out to the road minister, reach out to the finance minister, because I have a lot of confidence in the contractor. He has done so much work on this road, and I am confident that with the needed assistance from these 2 ministries, the contractor will quickly get back to site to complete especially these 2 bridges so that the road is not cut off during the rainy season.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Konchoko.
And the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council in the Bono East region is asking citizens to play their role in keeping the environment clean. And Asabit has more in this report.
After hours of digging, sweeping, clearing and desilting of gutters as part of its environmental care campaign that aims at improving sanitation in the country, The Bono East Regional Chairman of the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, Apostle Isaac Nikotijani, is charging members of the church and the general public to emulate the initiative and dedicate their time in keeping the environment clean.
We are here on a cleanup exercise, which we have been doing over the years. And we are doing it all to the glory of God. And I can see the joy with which the members are participating in this cleanup exercise. When we came here, the drivers, mates, and all other people around, the women, market women, have all joined in doing the cleanup. So we want to thank God that we have been able to do it this year, and also thank the Traditional Council very well, especially Kentahini, for the input and the way he has held the fort and helped us to do this.
Apostle Nikotijani emphasized that religious bodies command a huge following and must therefore press home the need for attitudinal change. He therefore appealed for an intensive education on sanitation, as well as the provision of more dustbins across the municipality.
I think that indiscipline is what is disturbing us. Now, even as we clean, others litter. But with that, I think we need to do more education. And then I've also realized that we don't have dustbins in this area. We don't have dustbins. And so, in collaboration with Zoom Lion and other stakeholders, we will see how we can provide dustbins in this area so that the education that we are doing will go down well with the people.
The exercise also saw the massive support of other stakeholders, and key amongst them is the Nananum of the Techiman Traditional Council. Nana also Antribusiakon is the Kentahene and Dapenhene of the Techiman Traditional Council. He tells me why sanitation continued to be of interest to the traditional authorities.
Like we're seeing today, this is not the first time that we're working with the Church of Pentecost. The Church of Pentecost decided to also go with the environment, decided to clean the environment, so we decided to partner with them. Last year we did this massive exercise, this year too we are repeating. And you could see that the interest of the environment, as far as the cleanliness is concerned, is the hallmark of the Techiman Traditional Council, and Osiadio himself had been championing this cause.
He was, however, enthused at the response from members of the general public and asked that more needs to be done to make Techiman the cleanest city in the country.
This morning it was very fantastic seeing the drivers from the transport unions, especially the GPRT, the Portois, the VIP, the OA, and STC, all of them were together. And the other taxi drivers too were also part. Even the Praga riders were also part. And you could see that everybody is helping. And we also want to impact that education into our people so that at any point in time, nobody will be able to drop litters around to make sure that we have the cleanest city that we want.
On his part, Assemblyman for the Abanu electoral area, Nyako Andrews, was thankful to the church for the exercise and appealed to the people living in the area to make sanitation their utmost priority.
In fact, no, Bronos and Aman, Etimetu and more at the acronym. Ubasi main stage no rano, yet in funny to Zoom Lion so. There's Obua, Nazumi Soboa, a Babuaya Makuride, IFF, Mobu Cressima, or say Techmani.
The campaign constitutes one of the pillars of the church's 5-year strategic plan to transform the society at the national and local levels. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
And you're welcome back. The University of Energy and Natural Resources says it is positioning itself to be, of course, the lead in Ghana's technology and energy transformation space. I have two individuals joining us to do that discussion. Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Elvis Asare, and Dr. Nana Ajiman Prempa, who's a senior lecturer there. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time here on The Pulse. For a lot of people, they've been hearing about many public universities, Prof. And when it comes to your story as the University of Energy and Natural Resources, what would you say has been your contribution over these years towards national development?
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, the University of Energy and Natural Resources, I would say that was established in 2012. In fact, 2011 by Act of Parliament, and but it started operation in 2012. The mandate is to produce a critical mass, manpower for energy and natural resource sectors of the economy. And I would say that the university has actually performed well, creditably well, so significant to the national development. In terms of energy,
right,
I would say that. I mean, the university being the only university of energy, Google, the only university of energy in the South region.
In the sub-region?
In the sub-region.
Not just here in the country, right.
What it means is that others, like in Ghana here, there are other institutions that run programs in energy. But we have, some programs,
right, okay.
But we have the name of the University of Energy and Natural Resources. We have schools of energy. And we have one other center, that is a Center for African Center of Excellence for Energy and Environmental Sustainability.
Right.
Now, let's see, in terms of achievement, if you consider, we have one area like, in terms of the University of Energy and Natural Resources has been selected in consortium with Sunyan Technical University and Kumasi Technical University and Energy Foundation to run one of the 3 sustainable energy centers in Ghana under the Millennium Development Authority and the Millennium Challenge Compact. They have an aspect, a component of sustainable energy and a demand side compact aspect of it, of this Millennium Compact. So we are supposed to train energy auditors and certify. So training and certification of energy auditors for energy efficiency, and other energy, renewable energy services. And this, the University of Energy and Natural Resources, is, as I told you, is part of this. Have been selected to play a role, which means we are contributing significantly to national development. Not only that, if you consider, we in 2018, we ran a program on the Chinese South-South cooperation. And the idea is to also, with the objective, supported by the Chinese government. And the idea is to ensure energy efficiency and to combat climate change in the developing world, So the idea is to provide energy efficient product and to some of the communities. And in fact, I would say areas where the national grid, cannot cover, we provide solar street lights.
Oh, you're already doing that?
Oh, yes, we've done that. In fact, we've done that we have done that to some other institutions, and in the southern part and northern belt, we've done that a lot, these inland areas. And this is our university. So solar home system, solar street light, all this have been provided to, and this project is also in collaboration with Ministry of Energy.
Right.
So right away, we are contributing significantly. And that is one areas. In terms of solar taxi, we are talking about solar taxi. They need to also reduce emission, and through a project with German institution, also be involved in this solar taxi project, where using of electrical energy, so as to reduce emissions, so that is.
So this is a complete project that you're running.
Yes, that is it.
Just positioning you.
That is true. And so these are all aspects of, as I speak to you now, University of Energy and Natural Resources is collaborating with the private sector called Couldnt Energy. And what we are trying to do is to, we are developing a hybrid of solar and hydropower along the Tyne River. And this is the first time we have tertiary institution collaborating with the private sector to produce energy, which is a hybrid of solar energy and hydropower. And that is very significant.
And Dr. Nanajiman, I'll come back to you, Prof, but Dr. Nanajiman, you have also been doing a lot in the classrooms as well. From what Prof is saying, how are you positioning the students, the products you churn out, to also flow in that vision that you have as an institution?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you to your viewers.
Right.
Yeah, from the classroom perspective, possibly maybe I will take my department for instance. We run quite a number of programs at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. My department, for instance, we run the Climate Change and Sustainable Development Program. And through this program, students are being introduced into cutting-edge courses that could help achieve the purpose and the mandate of the university. Yeah.
So, for instance, I'm interested in some of the projects you're running. The solar project, for instance, Prof was talking about. Do you have anything more that you're planning in the
Yes. Another area that we also be working on, also with support with the GIZ from Germany. We also been running, solar-powered irrigation project, and the idea is to, if you look at most of the irrigation fields, areas, they have to use generator to power for the irrigation process. But this one, you're going to use solar powered. So we are talking of renewable energy. We are interested in renewable energy to reduce this carbon emissions and all that. And this will ensure continuous supply of water for irrigation. And we are training extension agents and other organizations on the use of this solar-powered nut. And not only that, there's one interesting thing I must say here. When it comes to waste to energy, our university is the forefront of it. We have carved a niche for that. Now, I'm sure last year or so, they commissioned a project in Jankoba in the Achuma district. And that involved conversion of municipal waste into energy. And that one, the University of Energy is part of that project. And not only that, the University of Energy and Natural Resources, in collaboration with 28 other institutions in Europe and Africa, we also lead in a project where we are converting agricultural waste to energy. That's called Refed Africa project. And we're going to, in fact, we're going to even establish a plant at Sola in the northern region.
In the northern region,
yes,
okay.
Where we are going to produce energy from this one. Not only that, this one is led by Spain, institution from Spain.
Right.
Then there's another project, which is a Level Up project. And the Level Up project also is going to convert both all plant product, both agricultural waste, horticultural waste, forestry waste product, and all that, also into energy. And we already cut a sort to establish a plant on campus at UNEA, Sunyane, where we're going to, produce energy, and that will make us even self-sustainable in terms of
even as an institution.
Yes, even as an institution. So that means we are doing that. Now, in so doing, we are managing environmental-related issues. Right. You understand? And so environmental issues being managed.
Right. And
not only
that you're also marking your 10th anniversary.
Yes.
Let's get into that as well, because a lot of people are excited to see that over the 10-year period you've done a lot. Do you have a plan? I think I should put that to Dr. Nanachiman. Do you have a plan in place to mark the event this year?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, the celebration started way back last year.
Oh.
But due to COVID and these other related issues, we had to kind of wrap up this year. So the anniversary was actually launched last year, March, in 2022, where we had some government officials joining us to set this whole anniversary ablaze. And amongst the key activities that we had during the celebration had been some health work and health campaigns within our catchment area. We also had our maiden inaugural lecture.
Right.
Yes, by one of our seasoned professor who is well vested in chemical sciences. We've also had another inaugural lecture by another seasoned professor in applied geology.
Right.
Amongst other things, we've also had some some games with other sister universities around our region. Again, we've also had some engagement with media and other foreign partners. And now we are almost at the verge of wrapping up with our celebration come Saturday, that is the 1st of April. And before that, we will be having our 7th graduation ceremony on the Friday. Then the Saturday, we have our final program, and we will be having special guests like the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We will also be having the Minister for Environment. We will also be having the Minister for Education, who will all be gracing the occasion. So we are calling on the entire country to join us. Again, we are also having the Inspector General of Police
also joining
as one of our invited guests. So we call on all Ghanaians to join us as we celebrate such a great milestone, and a decade of excellence in energy and natural resources.
And we're expecting that this will be a very insightful program. Professor Elvis, let me give you the last words on this as we wrap up. What's your message to the general public, and what do you also have to add about your achievements in making this an environmentally friendly school and also a school that's leading in technology?
Right. Thank you very much. I think before my last word, I just want to comment on some of the key achievements, which I think you must know. First, when it comes to climate science, climate-related work, the University of Energy and Natural Resources, just this last month. Was it this month?
Yeah, this month.
This month, yes.
Yeah.
We commissioned what do you call carbon flax tower in the Bia Tunnel forest near Mim.
Okay.
And this carbon, about 56-meter carbon tower with AD coverance, you know. Now, what it's supposed to do? It measures the carbon flux, carbon emission, and measure the contribution of, you know, the plant take up carbon dioxide, and then they give out oxygen. And you know, we're talking about climate change, and the climate change, carbon dioxide in the air. So we want to find out the contribution of the tropical forest in this management of this climate change. And this is the first in Africa, and the only academic institution to have this carbon tower or this, this nature. And this is the first. It's very important that we inform you about that. And not only that, the university also have advanced fire information system. We developed software that can even detect wildfire across the entire West Africa sub-region. And the city, you can able to monitor. And we are working, because of the, we are working on even with the, having a relationship with fire service and all that. We are working on that. Okay, maybe
well, because of time.
Yeah, because of time. So now what I would say that I want to thank you very much. This university, what I say is that University of Energy and Natural Resources is well positioned and is contributing significantly to management of energy and natural resources in Ghana, and it's a place to be, and therefore welcome the potential students and parents to just come to University of Energy and Natural Resources.
Right, and Prof, we're so grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us here in studio. Also to Dr. Nana Agyemang for joining us. And of course, we've run out of time, so that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. We'll see you next time here on The Pulse. Log on to myjoyonline.com. You'll get more stories there. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz.